ahead and set that up. Okay, sweet. We are recording, I hope, and let's go ahead and discuss this class. So hi, my name is Matt Mullen, and again, I apologize that you guys got the wrong link. Um, that was a fun little bit of chaos to try to solve, but that actually is my motto for this school year. My motto for this school year is it's going to be chaos, but then we're going to fix it. So I appreciate your patience and your troubleshooting. And then we got through it together, and that's all that matters. And again, that's just going to kind of be how this whole year is going to go. That's going to be our mentality, but we're all going to get through it together, and we're all going to be better, stronger students for it. So let's discuss what's going to happen with this class. And I really base a lot of the things that we do in this class around the AP exam, because the AP exam is really why your kids are here. Maybe they're here to learn more in-depth US history, and sure, that's fine, but they're really here to take and hopefully pass the AP exam and skip a semester of college. Now, because of that, the College Board has not changed any of the content or any of the testing for the AP exam, which means that I am beholden to the fact that I need to cover as much of the content as we would in a normal year. And let's be honest, we know this isn't a normal year. We're losing about 85 minutes a week of instruction, which means that this course is going to have to move pretty fast, and more of the onus of learning the content is going to be on your students, because again, I'm essentially losing a day and a half every week. We are already about 8 days behind with the late start, the 2 short weeks, and everything else. We're about 8 days behind our pace from last year. So I have to figure out how to make up that time. That way we can still cover the same amount of material. If the College Board comes out and says, hey, we're gonna require less content coverage on the exam, then we can slow down and reevaluate. But until then, I'm actually putting your students at a disadvantage if we don't have a fast pace, which means I highly recommend that your student gets a review book. Again, this is not required, it's just a recommendation. You can get these books on Amazon. The company that I personally use is Kaplan. And the reason why I like them is that they give a more in-depth coverage of the content than some other review books. So this is the one that I recommend. You do not need to get a new book. I checked this afternoon, and the 2014 version is selling for 1 penny on Amazon. That one is fine. Again, this is not required, but the textbook is a little dense. And by having this book, it helps break down some of the density of the exam, or of the material. And especially in this year where the students aren't going to have as much of the direct instruction from me, it could be more beneficial for your student. Again, used is fine. History hasn't really changed all that much. So there was a test redesign in 2015, but if you find a used book from 2012, or you have a student and like, hey, their sibling took this class 8 years ago, that book is fine. The story hasn't really changed significantly for the AP exam for that purpose. So a used book is fine. Again, not required, but recommended. Let's talk about grades. 40% of your students' grades come from review questions. Now, if you've had me in the past, or if your student has had me in the past, this used to be 30%, but I gave the students 10% more in the grade book because they're gonna have to do about at least 10% more of the work on their own. So I figured it was only fair to give them more credit in the grade book for them doing additional work. Now, these review questions can take about 4 or 5 hours in a given week, but that's only if they do it at the last minute. These assignments are not designed to be done the night before. For example, your students have a test tomorrow, so if they're working right now and they've been working all afternoon, they're doing something wrong, because I gave this to them 9 days ago, and they're supposed to do it in little chunks as we go over things in class. So if they're like, you know, screaming horrible things about me tonight, it's not my fault. There's a lot of things in this class that'll be my fault, but this is not one of them. They're given plenty of time. That is how the homework in this class works. Those also serve as a study guide for the given test and a way of helping them map their way through the unit. I put a lot of thought into those review questions because that's actually how all of my homework was done in college. So I figured if this is going to be a college class, I'll give you guys the kind of work that I had in college. That way you can see exactly what it looked like. The remaining 60% of the grades come from multiple choice tests and essays, which there will be a lot of this year. Lots of essays, lots of writing. Finally, your child's grade is going to fluctuate a lot the first couple of weeks. It's a bit of a roller coaster as we're inputting grades, putting things in. If tomorrow's test doesn't go well for your students, it's not the end of the world. It's a very quick test. There's not a lot of points in it yet. But it kind of lets them get a baseline of what it's going to look like in this class. There's plenty of time to fix and adjust grades and adjust student workload and stuff as we go. There's plenty of time. So don't freak out if things don't go great on tomorrow's test. It happens. It's part of the learning curve of junior year. Okay. Last slide, my personal favorite slide. It's no surprise that history has become controversial. It seems like almost everything in the United States is controversial in these interesting times that we're living in. As the old historian's curse says, may you live in interesting times. And we do. But see, here's the thing. We will be discussing controversial topics in this class, and we are going to be looking at history from different points of view. We're going to be looking at different events through the point of view of women, from Native Americans, from enslaved people, and then freed people. From the story of immigrants is a big story in US history. So we're going to be looking at what was the life like for various immigrant groups at different times. And it's not a happy story. I'm sure if you guys go back and look into your own family history, the story of the first people of your family that came to America is probably not a happy one. So we're going to have to look at that. The things that we are seeing in the world today, this is not the first time they've ever happened. One of my favorite sayings is, it's all happened before. And it has. So part of this class is going to be looking at the things that happened in the world and how they've happened before and what we can learn from them for the future. That's a big reason why history is an important thing to study. That being said, if your students bring home something controversial or they say something controversial, don't just immediately, contact the local newspaper and try to get me fired, because again, I would never show the students something like inflammatory and intentionally biased or wrong. That's not what I'm doing here. I let the historical figures speak for themselves, and a lot of them are controversial, including ones from every political party that you may or may not love. There are different things that they have said and done, and that's the kind of thing that we have to evaluate. I am intentionally teaching multiple perspectives on the story, and those perspectives are not going to agree. What I need from you as parents is to embrace the controversy of this class and not run away from it. The absolute worst thing you can do to a student in high school is stomp on their intellectual curiosity. You will stunt their growth for the rest of their educational and academic career. Embrace the controversy. If a student comes home and says something different from how you learned it, go look it up. Maybe the research has changed. I can tell you right now, I have a huge wall of books behind me, and those wall of books, a lot of them are on research that contradict other books that are on my same shelf. So this is going to be important for your students, because remember, part of our job as history teachers is to prepare your students to be voters. Now, I don't think any of them are going to be voting 6 weeks from now in the upcoming election, but they will be voting in 24 months. And it's our job to make sure they're ready. And that's a very intense job for a history teacher. And the way to do it is to help them become critical thinkers. And that's what we're going to do in this class. So again, I beg you, please embrace the controversy and not run away from it. I'm not going to try to put weird, crazy thoughts in your kids' heads. I'm trying to get them to think like historians, and more importantly, to think like voters, which they're all going to be very soon. Okay, that's my presentation. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to email me. Again, I apologize for the chaos, but that's just kind of how this year is going to go, and we're just going to have to, bounce back from it. So you guys are off to your next presentation. Thank you for your time.